Dante could see death before it came, a gray mist curling around those about to vanish. Saving them came at a cost. Every memory of them erased. Elena was a single mother who lived to preserve memories and hid a quiet secret within every cup of tea she brewed. Then Dante walked into her life, and fate began to rewrite them both. Darkness in New Orleans is never truly black. It's a bruised cocktail of late sunset purples, the murky indigo of the Mississippi River, and that deathly gray mist that only I can see. I stood on the rooftop of a crumbling dockside warehouse, the cherry of my cigar burning a hole in the shadows. Below us, the rhythmic crack of gunfire tore through the heavy night air. The Moretti family was making a play for my latest arms shipment. They thought the three-generation legacy of the Carboni Empire was nothing more than a fading ghost. They were dead wrong. "Sir, they're retreating toward the West Alley." Silas's voice crackled through the comms. I didn't answer. I didn't need binoculars to know exactly what was coming. My vision shifted violently. A pale, translucent gray mist, thin as hearth smoke, began to coil around the silhouette of Marcus, my most loyal guard, who was hunkered down behind a shipping container 50 meters away. That mist was a death warrant. It was the omen that within the next 24 hours, Marcus would vanish from this world. "Marcus, get down!" I roared into the radio, my voice slicing through the chaos. In that heartbeat, a Moretti sniper opened fire from a hidden nook. Marcus threw himself onto the concrete just as the bullet whistled past his head, slamming into the steel wall behind him in a spray of blinding sparks. I drew my gold-plated Beretta and fired 2 decisive rounds. The sniper tumbled. The gray mist around Marcus evaporated. I had saved him, again. But the price arrived instantly. A sharp, needle-like pain stabbed into the depths of my brain. For a split second, I felt a piece of my soul being ripped away. I tried to recall the very first day Marcus came to work for me, but it was gone. Total void. I knew he was vital to me, but the emotions tied to him had been devoured by this power. I knew he was important, yet every connection, every shared laugh, every bond had been swallowed by the abyss. With every life I save, a black hole opens wider in my psyche. I took a long drag of my cigar, then exhaled slowly, washing the scent of gunpowder from my skin. I had to get ready. I had to don the mask of the proud heir for the family gala that awaited. 2 hours later, I sat at the head of a long banquet table in the Carboni Manor. Crystal chandeliers cast a light that was both opulent and weary. My mother, Isabella, offered her usual gentle smile. At nearly 60, her face still radiated kindness, her fair skin etched with the elegant lines of time. She quietly poured wine for Sophia. "Cheers, little brother. That battle at the docks will keep dark New Orleans quiet for at least the next 2 years." My sister Sophia toasted, her glass raised. Her sharp, intelligent eyes searched mine. We had grown up side by side for over 30 years. She was the only one who didn't need supernatural power to read my soul. Whenever I drifted into the labyrinth of my own ruthless decisions, Sophia was always the one with the answer, a perfect counterbalance to my coldness. Mother took my hand, her voice warm. "Your father would be so proud of you, Dante. You have always fought so hard to uphold the family standing." I raised my glass in return, a smile touching my lips but never reaching my eyes. Inside, and I felt like a ghost. Marcus stood directly behind me, his gaze full of reverence. And me? I looked at him and wondered, how close were we really? Once again, that jarring feeling of being both a stranger and a brother to the man who had taken bullets for me for a decade washed over me. It was a sickening sensation, like reading a masterpiece only to find someone had ripped out the most vital chapters. When the banquet finally ended, I retreated to my study. I went straight to the hidden drawer and pulled out my father's pocket watch. It was a masterpiece of rose gold, its glass face bearing a single thin crack. The second hand had stopped exactly at the moment he drew his final breath. I cradled it like a holy relic. It was the last tether connecting me to the man who built this empire. I'd sought out every renowned horologist in the country, but none satisfied me. They only touched the casing. None of them understood the heartbeat within. I had to keep searching. Setting the watch on the desk, I stared into the swirling smoke of my cigar as the memory of the first time I discovered my gift flickered back like a slow-motion film. I was 24. Beside me was Bruno, a majestic Doberman with a coat as black and slick as oil. Bruno wasn't just a pet. He was my best friend, the only living soul I could trust with my darkest secrets for 5 long years. One afternoon I saw it, a pale gray mist coiling around him. I rubbed my eyes thinking it was an illusion or a trick of the light, but it stayed. The next morning, Bruno darted into the street and was crushed by a truck right before my eyes. I ran to my father in a blind panic. "Dante," my father said, his voice as somber as a church bell. "This is the gift and the curse of the Carboni bloodline. We can see death. But if we intervene, death will take the most precious memories we have with that person to restore the balance. Do not abuse it, Dante. It sounds like power, but the price will leave you hollow. A truly strong family must exist in reality, built on loyalty and strategy, not by playing games with destiny." I stood frozen in the middle of his office, my breath coming in jagged gasps. Bruno's horrific death still haunted me. The way his eyes looked at me one last time before going dark, and that wicked gray shadow. It was real. I had just discovered I possessed a power beyond mortal men, something that should have made me feel like a god. But before any spark of excitement could ignite, my father's words doused my soul like ice water, freezing every emotion. I was grieving my loyal companion, terrified of my cursed eyes, and horrified by the extortionate price my father had revealed. Memories in exchange for lives? That wasn't a blessing. It was a transaction with the devil. At 24, I couldn't stomach the mess of it all. I looked at my hands, wondering how many people they would save in the future, and how much of my soul I would lose in the process. It took many years standing amidst corpses and white voids in my mind before I truly felt the weight of my father's warning. He wasn't just teaching me about power, he was warning me about the profound loneliness a seer of death must endure. 2 years later, I used my power for the first time to save Maria, who was the housekeeper who raised me from a rigged trap. I saved her life, but I lost every memory of her sewing back my teddy bear when I was a child. I only knew it happened because Sophia told me later. When I looked at Maria, I saw only a devoted servant. The warmth of family had been crushed by the weight of my power. When my father died, I wasn't near him. This power is useless if I cannot see the person with my own eyes. Distance is a wall. He passed away during a long business trip, leaving me with this broken watch and the heavy burden of the crown. His loss left me with a hollow ache of regret. I had the status, the reach, and the power to see through death's veil. Yet the man I loved most died in the loneliest of ways, and I was powerless to stop it. I carried those teachings like an invisible shroud, walking through gunsmoke and blood to hold the Carboni throne. As time passed, the gaps in my memory grew wider, perfectly proportional to the power I amassed. I learned to smile when I felt empty and to give orders while my mind was desperately hunting for lost fragments of myself. My memories of Maria, of the brothers in arms I had saved, they were nothing but cold, sterile facts recounted to me by Sophia and Marcus. At 36, I stand at the summit. Women surround me constantly, but they are nothing but fleeting distractions in neon-lit nightclubs. I dare not love. I dare not bond. Because I am terrified that one day, to save the woman I love, I will have to look at her as if she were a total stranger. I look out the window at the distant, lonely lights of New Orleans. My heart, much like this watch, I broke and stopped beating a very long time ago. I sat in the armored SUV, my fingers tracing the hairline crack on the rose gold pocket watch. Marcus drove in silence, glancing occasionally at the rearview mirror. He had scoured every corner of the city to find a craftsman skilled enough to touch my father's most precious relic. "We're here, sir." "Minninder?" "Rumor has it the mistress here doesn't just fix objects, she mends forgotten souls." I stepped out of the car. Nestled beneath the sprawling canopy of an ancient oak tree was a quaint shop. It wasn't flashy or pretentious, yet it exuded a quiet, dignified classicism. Through the large, frosted glass panes, I froze. Inside, under honey-warm lamplight, a woman was hunched meticulously over her workbench. She wore a simple brown and white uniform. Her natural curls, a hallmark of her African heritage, neatly bunched at the nape of her neck, revealing an elegant profile and sharp, intelligent features. Elena. At 34, she possessed a beauty that wasn't meant to be gazed at from a distance, but rather felt. Her focus was absolute, her hands moving with a fluid grace among tiny components, radiating an uncanny sense of composure and peace. I stood there observing her for a long moment. It felt as though the world outside those doors, the world of gunfire and power, simply ceased to exist in this space. "Mr. Dante?" Marcus whispered, a gentle reminder. I pushed the door open. An antique brass wine chime rang out with a clear melodic chime, followed by the rich aroma of sandalwood mingled with the scent of old leather. The interior overwhelmed me slightly. It didn't feel like a shop. It felt like a library of memories. Antique clocks lined the walls, silver music boxes sat on shelves, and most notably, a large bookcase displayed handcrafted cowhide journals, arranged with exquisite care in a corner. Elena looked up. Her eyes met mine. And it wasn't the look of fear I was used to from those who knew the Carboni name, nor was it the predatory gaze of the socialites I encountered in nightclubs. Her gaze was clear and profoundly empathetic. "Welcome to Menender," she smiled, her voice as warm and soulful as a jazz ballad in the heart of New Orleans. I placed the watch on the velvet pad atop her counter. "Marcus says you're the best." Elena picked up the watch, fitting a specialized loop to her eye. She didn't look at me immediately. Instead, her fingers brushed lightly over the rose gold casing, tarnished by the passage of time. Early rose gold, a complex mechanical movement with microscopic gears. This line was produced 60 or 70 years ago, a design specifically tailored for the high society gentlemen of that era. She set the watch back down and looked me straight in the eye. Her gaze lasted long enough for me to realize this woman was far bolder than most who faced a man of my stature and grit for the first time. Items cherished like this usually carry the warmth of those who came before. Given the age, I guess this was your father's. Just a hunch, but the wear on the winding crown suggests the previous owner turned it with great respect every single day, I faltered. Her meticulous observation felt as though she were peeling back the layers of the iron armor I had worn for so long. "Please, have a seat, Dante." She gestured toward an old leather chair beside her desk. "While I perform a preliminary check, may the shop offer you a cup of tea?" Elena's natural poise and initiative caught me off guard, paralyzing me for a few heartbeats. In my world, people either knelt, trembled, or plotted my assassination. No one, especially not a diminutive woman, had ever invited me to sit with such calm, treating me like an ordinary guest. "Fine," I replied, my voice sounding raspier than usual. I sat and watched her disappear behind a velvet curtain. The energy Elena radiated wasn't one of submission, but a quiet inner strength that compelled even a man in a constant state of high alert to unconsciously lower his guard. Elena returned with a classic bone china cup. The gold rim was slightly worn, but the white glaze still shone like a pearl. She set it before me. A thin trail of steam began to swirl, rising from tea that possessed an unusual color. Not the typical amber, but a pure pale pink, shimmering under the yellow lights like liquid quartz. I lifted the cup. The heat hit my face, carrying layers upon layers of fragrance. Though I wasn't a tea drinker, the keen sense of smell required of a man who lived by gunpowder and blood allowed me to identify it instantly. I took a small sip and went rigid. The slight, somber bitterness of premium black tea served as the base for the purity of jasmine, followed by a lingering, the soothing note of lavender at the back of my throat. But it wasn't the flavor that paralyzed me, it was the sensation. A wave of warmth surged down my spine, soothing nerves that had been stretched as tight as piano wire. That strange pink tea seemed to dissolve within me, carrying a humble yet profound power, something I had never encountered in anyone within my world of shadows. I looked deep into the oscillating pink water, feeling the hollow, dry void of my lost memories being filled by a fresh breath of life. I didn't know if it was the heat or the lavender drifting straight into my nervous system, but for a few seconds I felt as though someone had loosened an invisible iron band tightened around my skull. The dull, constant aches, the price of my power that I had accepted as part of my existence, suddenly eased. They eased so much that it startled me. And stranger still, the void inside me no longer felt empty. It wasn't that my memories had returned. It wasn't a miracle that made me remember a face or a date. It was simply a feeling that I was still alive and that I was being held. That night, back at the manor, I fell into a deep, rare sleep. For the first time in years, I didn't dream of white voids, no hallways of erased memories, no waking up feeling like someone had stolen a piece of my soul. I just slept, like a normal man. The next morning, I woke up and realized I had forgotten what it felt like to be at peace. This tea? I hesitated, my eyes still fixed on the china cup. It has a very strange color, and the taste, it's as if it understands me. She laughed, her eyes lighting up. Restoring antiques requires stillness. And tea is how I keep my mind connected to the objects. My work isn't just about making gears turn again. I reconstruct memories. When you hold a restored item, the emotions of the past return more vividly. That is why customers find me. They want to find the moments they've lost. Her words touched the deepest wound within me, to find lost moments. The man who traded memories for lives, could I ever find them again? I looked around the shop, watching her staff working quietly, then looked back at Elena. You seem very happy in this small world. A pleasant life, a warm family. Is that why you can heal objects? I was fishing. I wanted to know about her more than her skills. Elena lowered her eyes slightly, her smile turning gentle but somber. I am a single mother, Dante. My husband passed away in a tragic accident 3 years ago. It was a sudden void. But my son, Martin, who was only 4 at the time, and this little shop became my entire world. Watching him grow and remember small things about his father taught me how to cherish every fragment of the past. Losing someone dear taught me how to cherish what remains. Her bluntness stunned me. She didn't hide. She didn't wallow. She turned pain into the strength to nourish the memories of others. The contrast between us was staggering. I held power to save people but lost my memories. She lost her loved one but kept every memory to keep on living. Marcus stepped forward abruptly, gesturing and whispering about a disturbance in the Northside district. The world of shadows was calling me back. I have to go, I said, standing up, a strange sense of regret welling within me. How long will the watch take? 1 week, Dante. It needs to be nurtured with patience, she said, her gaze lingering as if wanting to keep me in that peaceful space just a moment longer. Then I'll be back in a week. At that time, can I have your tea again? You are always welcome here. As I left the shop, the wind chime rang out once more like a farewell. Sitting in the car, I felt as though I had just returned from another dimension. A sensation of positive, gentle hope began to bud in my chest, something I hadn't felt in longer than I could remember. Mr. Dante, Marcus teased, catching my relaxed expression in the mirror. It seems the watch isn't the only thing you want repaired in there. I didn't snap at him like I usually would. I simply looked out the window as the streets of New Orleans began to light up. Marcus, find out everything you can about her, Elena. I want to know it all.
The roar of the armored SUV's engine faded into the distance, leaving behind the heavy silence that usually draped the Menender. I stood by the window, watching through the glass as Dante's broad silhouette was swallowed by the evening mist of New Orleans. I returned to my workbench and gently picked up his rose gold pocket watch. The cool metal casing sent a faint chill against my palm. A soft smile tugged at my lips. A mafia boss with hands roughened by the world, reeking of gunpowder. Yet he had spent years cherishing a broken heirloom. Dante. He wasn't as heartless as he tried so hard to portray. I had repaired thousands of items for the wealthiest people along the Gulf Coast, men who saw antiques as nothing more than vanity decorations. But Dante was different. I sensed a profound deficit in his soul. A parched void much like the inner workings of this watch, still precious, but no longer beating. A strange connection was beginning to bud, an unspoken empathy that had prompted me, someone who usually kept a professional distance from clients, to personally brew him a cup of my most prized tea. Chime. The wind chime at the door rang out, but this time it wasn't the heavy, hurried rhythm of bodyguards. It was a light, nimble pitter-patter. "Mom, I'm home!" I jumped, nearly dropping my tweezers. Martin stood there, his backpack looking larger than his small frame, his face smudged with dust, but his dark, upturned eyes gleaming with pride. "How did you get home by yourself? I thought the school bus was supposed to drop you off. Martin, you scared me half to death." I rushed over, pulling him close. My 7-year-old son puffed out his chest and flashed a mischievous grin. "I told the driver I wanted to walk the last 3 blocks to the shop. I wanted to surprise you. I'm big now, Mom. I want to be independent and capable just like you." I exhaled a breath of relief, pulling his small, sun-warmed body into a hug. Martin was so bright and perceptive that it sometimes made my heart ache. He always seemed to be striving to fill the void his father had left behind. Martin ran over to the workbench, his nose scrunching as he caught the scent lingering in the air. He looked at the porcelain cup still stained with a hint of pink on the table, then looked up at me with curiosity. "Oh, did we have a special guest today, Mom? Does this person like the same tea Dad used to drink?" I froze, my smile stiffening for a moment before melting back into a tender gaze. I gently ruffled his hair. "Yes, a very special guest. I had to take advantage of this short New Orleans winter to brew a warm pot of tea for someone who seems to have been cold for a very long time." "How special, Mom?" Martin climbed onto a high stool, his legs swinging back and forth. "Special in the sense that I feel like I can help him more than others, and that makes me happy." Martin tilted his head, thinking for a moment before his eyes lit up. "Does that mean he's going to pay you more money than everyone else?" I burst into laughter at his innocent pragmatism. "Very likely, my little man. If he makes you happy, then I want to meet him too." Martin's voice suddenly dropped, taking on a tone more mature than his years. "Next time he comes, can I meet him, Mom?" His request gave me pause. I looked down at my hands, then at the book Martin had tucked into his backpack, a copy of The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse by Charlie McKeesey. Lately, he had started becoming curious about strong male figures, about adventure and courage. His words left me momentarily speechless. "Martin, why did you choose this book? Where did you get it?" I reached for the volume, surprised it wasn't the usual superhero comic kids his age favored. Martin kicked off his shoes and replied excitedly, "I took the bus to the downtown library by myself after school. I asked the librarian, 'Ma'am, is there a book about a man like my dad?' She looked at me for a long time and then gave me this one. I was stunned, my heart tightening. What did she say about the man in the book?" "She said," Martin squinted, trying to recall, "that a real man isn't someone who isn't afraid, but someone who, despite having many wounds and being lonely, still chooses to be kind to the world. She said the character in here made it through the greatest storms of life and still kept a warm heart. Just like Dad. Right, Mom? Dad was very strong, wasn't he?" My eyes blurred. It turned out Martin wasn't just looking for a hero. He was searching for a gentleman, to be an anchor for his soul. "So you took the bus to the library and then walked back to the shop all by yourself today? Martin, that was too reckless, my boy." My voice turned stern as I pulled him into my lap, my breath still shaky from lingering anxiety. "New Orleans isn't as kind as you think. Next time, tell me. And I'll go find the men in the books with you, okay?" Martin buried his head in my shoulder and whispered, "I'm sorry. I just wanted to surprise you." I had spent the last 3 years telling Martin stories about his father, ensuring the memory of a kind man who loved tea and family lived on in his heart. But I understood that a growing boy needs more than just a memory. He needs a presence, a steady masculine energy to light the way. I looked at Dante's watch sitting quietly on the shelf. Was I merely repairing an antique? Or was I unintentionally opening a door that I myself didn't know the destination of? "All right, little man," I said, trying to shake off the tangled thoughts. "Let's go have dinner, but promise me, no more going off on your own like that." Martin nodded vigorously, but his gaze didn't leave the rose gold watch. In the Menender shop, the scent of jasmine tea still lingered, but it seemed to have taken on a new aftertaste. The taste of anticipation and of variables beginning to shift.
A week was far too long for Marcus to gather intel on Elena, but far too short for me to mentally prepare for what I was about to face. The report sat on my desk. Elena, 34 years old, widow, single mother to a young boy named Martin. She was the embodiment of everything I should stay away from: honesty, compassion, and a tranquil life. The more I learned about her, the more I felt caught between two tides. Half of me yearned to immerse myself in that healing energy. The other half trembled with fear. If I bonded with her, the responsibility of protecting her from the enemy circling me would become 10 times heavier. And the most terrifying thought, if one day I had to use my power to save her, could I endure waking up with not a single shred of memory regarding her smile? The New Orleans night was thick with humidity and unease. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling window looking down at the hazy city lights, but my mind saw only Elena's intelligent eyes and the scent of that strange pink tea. I couldn't stand the conflict for a second longer. I picked up the phone and dialed the only number I could call when my soul stood on the edge of the abyss. "Dante, what's wrong?" Sophia's voice came through as soon as she picked up. No pleasantries. Her voice was calm and warm, yet as sharp as a surgical blade cutting straight through my prideful veneer. I was silent for a moment, taking a deep breath. "I'm not afraid of enemies, Sophia. Gun barrels don't make me blink, but I'm afraid of myself. I'm afraid of the way I feel when I'm near that woman. I feel myself softening. I feel myself wanting more to connect." "And you're afraid of the price?" Sophia sighed softly on the other end. "You're afraid that one day you'll look at her as a stranger after trading your memories to save her life, aren't you?" "Yes. My responsibility is to protect the family, to protect Mother and you. But stepping into Elena's world, it's a bet I'm not sure I can win. If enemies target her, I'll have to use that power. And the price is that I will forget the woman who made me feel alive again. I'd rather die in a gunfight than live in that void once more." Sophia went quiet, likely weighing her words to pull me out of the swamp. "Dante, listen to me. You've lived like a ghost in the Carboni Manor for 10 years. You run an empire, but your soul is a dead land. Elena isn't a weakness. She is the reason for you to actually exist instead of just surviving. It's time your responsibility grew larger, not just to protect the territory, but to protect your own happiness. The price may be cruel, but if you don't try, you've already lost her." She paused, her voice softening with a hint of a tease. "New Orleans winters are short, Dante. The cold will pass soon. And if you don't hold on to this warmth, you'll be alone forever with nothing but stone walls. Go. Date her like a normal man. I believe Father would want to see you loved rather than just seeing you strong. And Dante, there's one more thing: variables. In our world, no matter how perfectly everything is calculated, there are always tiny percentages beyond control. Nothing is 100% absolute, not even the price our family has paid all these years. Do you understand me?" I fell silent. A variable? A tiny sliver of hope that this curse could be broken? I hung up, but Sophia's words echoed in my mind, pushing me out of my zone of isolation. Those words were the final nudge. I didn't wait for the official appointment. Only 4 days had passed before I ordered Marcus to drive me to Menender. She wasn't wearing her craftsman uniform today. Elena wore a thin, cream-white knit dress that hugged her silhouette, layered under a long wool coat. She looked both alluring and dignified amidst the clutter of old things. "You're earlier than expected, Dante," Elena said, her hands never ceasing their meticulous work on a small mechanical part. "I'm not here for the watch," I said honestly, sitting in the old chair and letting the scent of jasmine and lavender envelop me. She didn't pry. She simply brewed a familiar cup of pink tea. "Your familiar tea, Dante? I assume you didn't come all this way just for a drink?" Elena teased playfully. Her smile and ease soothed me as much as the warm tea did. "Why did you choose this profession?" I asked, watching her long, slender fingers. "A woman as smart as you could have done something far more glamorous in New Orleans than burying yourself in broken things." Elena stopped and smiled. "Glamour is a distant thing for me. When you repair something broken, you are touching the depths of its story. Some people bring in items that are worthless to the world but are a lifetime to them. I don't just fix gears, I'm mending fragments of their memories." She looked at me, her gaze piercing the emptiness I tried so hard to hide. "You're the same, Dante. You carry your father's watch not because it's rose gold, but because you're afraid that if it stops running, the tether between you and him will fade with the years, right?" "Yes," I replied, my voice raspy. "I've lost too much, Elena. Sometimes I feel like a hollowed-out watch, nothing but a polished casing." "Some people suffer because they can't escape memory," Elena said softly, putting down her tools and moving closer to me. The distance between us was close enough for me to smell the damp wood on her hands and the gentle lavender. But some are empty because they lose those fragments, even the painful ones. I find the second kind much more tragic. She looked out the window, her eyes momentarily distant. "When my husband died, my world collapsed. For a long time, I struggled in denial. I was afraid to touch old things, afraid of the smell of the tea he liked. But then I realized, if I tried to forget the pain, I would accidentally lose the love and warmth we had too. I began to walk alongside the memory instead of running from it. I fix his things, I talk to them, I keep them alive as part of me. Pain doesn't vanish, Dante. It just transforms into a quiet inner strength." She turned back to me, her dark eyes glowing with an uncanny understanding. She didn't approach hastily, but quietly pushed the steaming pink tea toward me. The thin vapor swirled between us like a protective veil, inviting me to shed my heavy iron armor and find a moment of rest. "Dante, perhaps you can't remember specific images or events, but the brain can forget. The heart always remembers. Emotional memory is stronger than you think. If you've ever loved, ever cherished something, that vibration remains deep in your chest, waiting to be awakened. Memories can fade, but your essence and your love never vanish." She took a small notebook from a shelf, bound in glossy brown cowhide that smelled of fresh leather. "Write it down, Dante. Write everything you feel right now. If your memory betrays you, let these pages be your witness. I will help you preserve them." I looked at the journal in her hand, then into those eyes that held a quiet sky of empathy. A strange emotion welled up, not the triumph of a victor, but a warmth igniting in my chest. I reached out for the journal, but my fingers brushed against the back of Elena's hand. It was a fleeting touch, just enough for me to feel her warmth, a stark contrast to the cold shell I usually inhabited. Elena paused for a beat, but she didn't pull away. Instead, she turned her hand over, on letting her soft palm catch my rough fingers for a brief moment. We didn't hold hands. It was just skin against skin, but it made my heart skip a beat. In the sandalwood-scented air, the ticking of 100 clocks seemed to fade, yielding to a heavy, meaningful silence. "Do you know what you're doing, Elena?" I whispered. "You're trying to mend something that broke a long time ago?" Elena looked up at me, her eyes devoid of the fear people usually show a mafia boss, holding only a gentle resolve. She placed the journal in my palm and tapped the back of my hand twice, a simple, grounding gesture. "I'm not afraid of broken things, Dante," she said softly. "I'm only afraid of things left to wither until they truly die." Her touch was as light as a breeze, but it left a mark deeper than any scar on my body. When I finally had to let go at Marcus's signal, her warmth lingered on my skin. I left, but my mind stayed trapped between clock gears and the scent of jasmine. In the car, I gripped the leather journal, feeling like I had found a vital piece of the puzzle to start reclaiming myself. It took about 15 days for me to get used to holding a pen instead of a gun every night. During those 15 days, the leather journal became more than just storage. It became a laboratory for my soul. I meticulously recorded the smallest details of my days, because I understood a cruel truth: that cursed power could erase what was in my head, but it couldn't touch the dried ink. I wrote about a pale afternoon in City Park, where I saw Elena brush a curl of hair away as the wind blew. I wrote about the thin but warm hands of my mother, Isabella, as she rested them on my shoulders during dinner, and the sharp but indulgent eyes of Sophia as she realized I was changing. Alongside the journal, I began doing something I once thought absurd: texting Elena. The first messages were laughably awkward, dry inquiries about her work, but her tenderness broke the ice. The messages grew longer, sweeter, laced with jokes and quiet anticipations. Now every chime of a text notification made my heart beat faster than when facing an enemy's gun. The change was so visible that even the Carboni Manor felt happier. "Dante, are you falling in love greedily?" Sophia teased at dinner, seeing me staring at everyone as if trying to carve their faces into my mind. Marcus noticed I was becoming more patient, staying longer to hear an old war story I would have dismissed before. They called me sentimental, but I just smiled. They didn't know I was racing against time to stockpile these treasures of emotion. The more I wrote, the more I understood Elena's value. Without her in this journal, I would have remained a ghost living for an uncertain future, forgetting that the present is the only thing I truly own before my memories are seized. When the sweet text messages became a new addiction, and the phone screen could no longer contain the growing longing, I knew I couldn't look at Elena's world through dry words for a second longer. I gathered my courage and called her. I know you have Martin, but tonight, may I ask for some of your time? Consider it a sincere thank you for what you've done for my father's relic. Elena agreed. That night, at the most prestigious restaurant in New Orleans overlooking the Mississippi, she appeared and took my breath away. She was stunning in a wine-red silk dress, as regal as a dark rose blooming late. Her curls were pinned up, revealing ears adorned with black pearl earrings. The scent of sandalwood drifted from her, elegant and profound. I stood up and pulled out her chair, unable to hide my admiration. Thank you for the watch and for accepting this invitation. Tonight, you truly make every light in here grow dim. Elena smiled, her usual shop confidence now laced with an air of high society grace. You're very different when you're not surrounded by bodyguards, Dante. We began with light stories about New Orleans, music, and wine. After a few glasses, I steered the conversation toward personal matters, the true anxieties in my heart. I looked deep into her eyes, my voice dropping, every word carrying the weight of a sincere warning. My world. It isn't like what you see at Menender. It's full of dark corners and cruelty. It's the polar opposite of your peaceful life, Elena. Elena was silent for a moment, swirling her wine and watching the red glints in the candlelight. She looked up at me with an unusual clarity in her gaze. My peaceful life has its risks and hidden corners too, Dante. Everyone has a mission on this earth. What matters is the spirit in which they carry it out. I mean, it depends on how we receive and respond. No one's life is entirely calm. I can't imagine how harsh your world of guns is, but I am certain of myself that I know how to move through pain. My healing energy makes others better. That is my greatest joy, just as my mother did for our family, and I am very happy to be doing that for you. I was silenced by her resilience. That is a miracle I want to keep for myself, Elena. The Mafia world is different, but I will try with everything I have to protect you in your life. You are the only one who gives me the motivation to become a better man. And what about Martin? I asked, my voice hesitating. What do you think about me entering his life? Elena smiled a gentle, pensive smile. Martin, he's at the age where he's looking for a male role model. Lately, he's been borrowing books about courage and protectors. He's very smart. He notices his mother has been smiling more, and he knows it's all because of the special guest who brought the old watch. He told me he really wants to meet you, the man who makes his mother happier than anyone else. She placed her hand on mine, squeezing lightly. He needs a hero of flesh and blood, Dante, and I think you might be the person Martin has been waiting for. My heart tightened. A mafia man with blood on his hands, being seen as a role model by a child, a new sacred sense of responsibility kindled within me. Under the flickering candlelight, as the last words of our confession settled, the distance between us vanished. I leaned forward and she didn't pull back. The kiss began softly, a shy exploration between two worlds that had never belonged together. Her lips were soft and warm, carrying the bittersweet aftertaste of the red wine. But within seconds, that gentleness was scorched by a flame of desire long suppressed. And I reached behind her neck, fingers tangling in her soft curls while my other hand instinctively tightened around her waist, pulling her closer. It was a kiss that was both burning and breathlessly smooth. I felt the slight tremble of Elena's lips, a sweet surrender to my possession. In that passionate breath, I felt myself melting. Every painful memory, every gray ghost of death was pushed back, replaced by a sensation so vivid and real it made me tremble. My hand slid along the smooth curve of her back beneath the red silk, feeling her rapid breaths merging with mine. This kiss wasn't just physical. It opened a new gate in my soul, a place where I realized I was willing to trade this entire empire just to keep this warmth forever. It was no longer the physical release of past flings. It was a fated bond, a silent vow that from now on, My darkness would always find its way back to her light. When we pulled apart, both our breaths were ragged. I looked into Elena's glistening eyes and saw my reflection. Not as a cold-blooded mafia boss, but as a man truly in love. In the weeks that followed, my world no longer revolved solely around shipping contracts or smoke-filled meetings. Our dates became more frequent, but we didn't meet at Menender much, that place of gears and ticking time. I wanted to take her out, to touch the reality she lived in. One late afternoon, she took me to City Park, where 100-year-old oaks draped their shadows over the still lake. We sat on a weathered wooden bench, the only sound being the wind rustling through the Spanish moss. "Dante, do you know why I love antiques so much?" Elena asked softly, her gaze following a bird flying home. Because objects don't judge people by their skin color. They only need hands patient enough and a heart sincere enough." She was quiet for a while, then told me about her early days opening the shop. New Orleans was beautiful, but it had dark corners of prejudice. Back then, my husband had just died, and Martin was only about 4. I found an old shop in the French Quarter, but the landlord flatly refused me the moment he saw me. He said a black woman shouldn't be holding a hammer and pliers to fix the heritage of white people. They looked at me like I was borrowing dignity, not like a real restorer. Elena sighed, her smile carrying a hint of bitterness but no resentment. Even when the shop was running, wealthy customers would walk in, see me, and turn right around. And they'd rather let their precious heirlooms rot than give them to someone like me. I had to fight so hard not to let Martin see his mother crumble. I squeezed her hand, feeling the calluses of a craftsman and the toughness of a mother. It turned out Elena was a warrior too. Her battle had no gunfire, but it was full of soul wounds she had stitched back together herself. "That's why I want to fix everything." Elena looked at me, her eyes glowing with a fierce resolve. "I want to prove that core value is always more important than the outer shell, and love is the same, Dante." I was silent, a profound respect welling up inside me. I used to think I was strong because I could decide life and death. But looking at Elena, I realized true strength lay in maintaining kindness after tasting all the bitterness of life.
I returned to Menender with the lingering honey-sweet taste of the kiss still on my lips, and a strange, newfound sense of peace weaving through every breath. While I was lost in thought, absent-mindedly rearranging the leather journals on the shelf, my mind still tethered to that restaurant by the Mississippi, a small, childish voice cut through the silence. "Mom, did that man pay you a lot of money to fix his gold watch?" Martin's question startled me. He was sitting on a high stool, legs swinging, watching me with eyes far too perceptive for a 7-year-old. Lately, I had been coming home late, sometimes catching myself smiling at nothing, signs a sensitive child like Martin wouldn't miss. "Why do you ask?" I smiled, trying to sound casual. "Because you look so happy, just like when Dad was still here. Next time, you have to let me meet him." I hesitated, ruffling his hair as a storm of conflicting emotions surged within me. I loved the soul beneath Dante's scars, but I knew I was venturing into a world where light and shadow blurred. The pain of losing my husband had forged me into a woman who didn't know how to back down. It was the catalyst that gave me the confidence to seize this happiness. But I understood that with a name like Carboni, enemies would never let us be at peace. And that day came sooner than I ever imagined. The door to Menender was suddenly thrown open with a violent thud. Marcus stepped in, his normally stoic face pale with agitation. He carried a luxurious box wrapped in deep blue velvet. Dante followed closely behind, his brow furrowed in sharp alert. "Sir, the Luciano family just sent this to the office. They're calling it a peace offering to renegotiate the Westport market share." I ran the scanners. No gunpowder, no electronics, but something feels off, Marcus stammered. Marcus's presence brought a chilling draft into the room. I saw Dante stiffen, his gaze pinned to the air around Marcus, where a faint, gray mist was beginning to unfurl. I stepped forward. The instinct of a master restorer took over. I didn't look at the opulent velvet. I looked at the intricate joints at the corners of the box. I brushed my fingers against the ebony wood, then pressed my ear close to listen for a dry, microscopic sound. "Don't open it, Marcus," I commanded, my voice so steady it surprised even me. Look, lady, this is underworld business. You don't understand, Marcus snapped, his hand already reaching for the lid. I understand mechanical triggers better than any of your scanners, I shot back. I grabbed a pair of specialized long tweezers and slid them into the gap near the hinge. This isn't a gunpowder bomb. This is a classic barometric pressure trap. Once the lid is lifted, the change in pressure triggers a volley of poison-tipped needles. Your scanners are useless against non-metallic traps. The room fell into a deathly silence. Meticulously, my hands never trembling, I decoded the complex internal teeth. After 5 minutes of agonizing tension, I extracted a needle, thin as a hair, stained black with toxin. Marcus's jaw dropped, his skepticism shifting into absolute respect. As for Dante, he looked at me, his heart racing with fierce pride for the brilliance of the woman he loved. Dante stared at the poisoned needle on the table, his eyes darkening with a brewing storm. He gripped my shoulders tightly, as if trying to use his own strength to shield me from the brutal reality that had just unveiled itself. The Luciano family wants the old warehouse at the Westport to smuggle contraband and Type X chemicals. They know you're my only weakness right now, Dante explained, his voice low and deadly. I looked at the wreckage of my piece on the workbench and took a deep breath to steady myself. Tell me more about the Lucianos. I need to know what I'm up against. Dante sighed, his eyes drifting to the window where his guards were already cordoning off the block. The Lucianos have stood alongside the Carbonis for 4 generations in New Orleans. Right now, they're led by Lorenzo Luciano, a man as cunning as he is ruthless. We've fought through dozens of bloody purges to divide this city. The Carbonis handle clean business and X-grade goods. They only want to stain the city with the worst of the worst. Lorenzo is never satisfied. He wants absolute control. And this attempted assassination is his dirtiest declaration of war yet. I felt a pang of guilt. Dante, I'm sorry. I didn't think things would escalate this fast. I've unintentionally dragged Martin into your crosshairs. Dante turned me around, forcing me to meet his eyes. No, Elena. I chose to enter your life. Never apologize for the cowardice of my enemies. He squeezed my hands, his voice resolute. Menender is no longer safe. I want both of you at my manor immediately, at least for a week until I settle things with Luciano. And I won't let another poison needle get anywhere near you. I looked deep into his eyes and saw not just the command of a Don, but the plea of a man terrified of losing his only treasure. I nodded slowly. All right, Dante. I trust you. I squeezed his hand back, his warmth grounding me. But we need a plausible reason for Martin. Dante's shoulders relaxed slightly. He led me to the small room behind the shop where Martin was sitting on the floor, engrossed in his book on courage. Dante didn't loom over him. Instead, he dropped to one knee to meet Martin at eye level. He pulled off his black leather gloves, offering a rough but warm hand to the boy. Hello, Martin. I hear from your mother that you're quite the expert on maritime maps, Dante said, his voice dropping into a tone of incredible patience. I have a massive library and an entire fleet of antique model ships at my house. I need someone with sharp eyes like yours to help me check the sails. Would you be willing to give me a hand for the next week? Martin looked at me for confirmation, then back at Dante. He seemed completely won over by the respect this powerful man was showing him. He timidly placed his small hand in Dante's palm and nodded vigorously. Do you really have antique ships, sir? I'd love to. Seeing the bright smile on my son's face, I silently thanked Dante for his tact. He didn't bring the fear of guns. He brought Martin an adventure, a reason to feel important and protected. The evacuation was swift, escorted by Marcus and 2 obsidian SUVs. As the heavy iron gates of the Carboni Manor swung shut behind us, I felt as though I had entered a fortress severed from the outside world. But the silence here didn't feel like peace. It felt like the stillness before a storm, and I could feel it in my bones. From this moment on, nothing would ever be as simple as I once believed. The villa was an architectural masterpiece. 3 stories of pristine white stone columns and sprawling balconies. Inside, the space was flooded with golden light from crystal chandeliers, the air carrying the faint, comforting scent of cedarwood and jasmine tea. Maria, a woman with a kind face and silver hair swept into a neat bun, welcomed us with a mother's warmth. She led us to our suite on the second floor, a vast room decorated in cream silks, with large windows overlooking a garden overflowing with jasmine. "Ms. Elena, please make yourself at home," Maria said softly as she helped settle our luggage. "Master Dante gave very specific instructions regarding your preferences and the boys. The bath is ready with lavender oils. Please, take a moment to relax." That night, after a soak in the lavender-scented water and a sumptuous dinner, I felt myself truly unwind for a fleeting moment, despite the looming threat of the enemy. Lying on the oversized bed, I recalled the words of my best friend Amy when she read my tarot cards the night before. "Your life is turning a page, more turbulent than the peace of your shop. There is a mystery in the moon card. It represents things the naked eye cannot see, illusions, or a hidden truth. But if you are brave enough to keep going, happiness waits at the end of the road." The next morning, I walked down to the dining room to find Martin animatedly telling stories to Dante. Dante listened with a level of patience I had never seen in a MAFIA don. The easy comfort between these two men made my heart soften. Life in the villa moved under a shroud of heavy protection. Martin was chauffeured to school in Silas's armored SUV, and I was escorted to Menender to work under the watchful eyes of guards. Dinner was the only time the family was whole. Afterward, I would stay by Martin's side until he fell into a deep sleep. Then I would brew a pot of hot jasmine tea to bring to Dante's study. These encounters were brief and hurried, just enough to give him strength and motivation without stealing too much time from his busy week of planning. "Take care of your health," I'd say, placing the tea on his desk. "This is good for the spirit." Dante would pull me close and press a soft kiss to my forehead. "Thank you, Elena. Having you here is the only thing that makes me feel truly at peace." The first few days passed in this rhythm. Dante and Marcus planned their retaliation against the Luciano family, keeping me shielded from the details. But by the fourth night, an event occurred that left me stunned and deeply troubled. The manor was so silent I could hear the wind whistling through the ancient oaks in the garden. Once I was sure Martin was asleep, I brought the tea to Dante's office. I knew he hadn't slept in days. As I approached the door, I froze. Dante's voice, low and strained, drifted out over a speakerphone. He was talking to Sophia. "Sophia, Luciano has caught wind of Elena's presence. He planned to assassinate her at Menender as a direct challenge to Carboni's honor. Marcus and I were forced to surrender 15% of the Westport transport market just to settle the situation temporarily. I've called him directly, warned him to play fair if he doesn't want to lose the entire shipment of X-chemicals sitting in my warehouse. He's agreed to negotiate, but I know it's just a delay tactic." Sophia's voice was calm but razor sharp. "Given Lorenzo Luciano's nature, he's likely been waiting for this day for a long time, Dante. Yielding the market share is a solid temporary fix to protect Elena. But you know the truth. A man like Lorenzo is never satisfied. You need a permanent, long-term plan to reset the order. It's only a matter of time." "I know, Sophia." Dante sighed, the sound of rustling papers carrying into the hallway. "But what else is weighing on you?" Sophia asked, sensing the hesitation in her brother's voice. "Luciano can't be the only thing rattling you this much." "You always know." Dante's voice suddenly broke, filled with genuine distress. "I have another concern. Sophia, I suspect I've lost my power when it comes to Elena. With that poison box today, I felt nothing. No gray mist, no warning, until it was right in front of her eyes. Did Father ever experience this? Is there another factor? If I can't see the omens of death for her, how am I supposed to protect her?" My heart hammered against my ribs. Gray mist? Seeing death. The scattered fragments of Dante's strangeness finally began to lock together in my mind. Sophia's voice came through the speaker, philosophical and deep. "Dante, didn't she save herself today? Perhaps Elena is the miraculous variable that renders the family power meaningless. But think about it. If the power doesn't work on her, it means you get to keep every beautiful memory of Elena without the price of forgetting. A whole love, without flaws, is the greatest source of strength to defeat any enemy. I remember Father's words. A family prospers through individual strength and collective unity, not just a blood curse. I returned to my room, leaving the tea to grow cold. I sat by the window, watching the oaks twist in the wind. Hundreds of whys swirled in my head, sharp as broken glass. Why did you hide this cruel power from me, Dante? Were you afraid I'd see you as a monster? Or did you fear my pity for a man who is slowly losing himself? I thought of how he cherished that leather journal, how he savored every cup of pink tea. Every time he saved a life, a piece of his soul vanished forever. How lonely he must have been in this fortress of power, where even his closest allies eventually became strangers with familiar faces. Tarot or not, the mystery of the moon card, the truths hidden beneath the moonlight, was finally coming into the light. This morning, the atmosphere within the Carboni Manor was draped in a strange, heavy tension. Usually, Silas, the guard with the piercing gaze and unshakable composure, would be at the wheel of the armored SUV to take Martin to school and me to the shop. But today, Silas was missing. Dante, I find it a bit odd that you're driving Martin yourself today, I noted as we stepped toward the car. Where is Silas? He's never late. Dante gripped the steering wheel, his eyes fixed forward, cold and vigilant. He's unwell and took the day off, Elena. Don't worry, I've got you. I looked at his rigid features, a sinking feeling flickering in my gut. Dante was soothing me with a lie. I wouldn't find out until much later from Marcus that the night before, Dante had seen a thin gray mist coiling around Silas during dinner. He had ordered Silas to cease work immediately and hide within the manor's bunker, knowing that death was calling the loyal guard's name. Dante, I know your world is more complex than I can imagine, I said, placing a hand gently on his shoulder as the car pulled up to Martin's school. But if there is anything you can say, let me know. Don't carry the weight of everything alone. He simply took my hand and pressed a soft kiss to my fingertips. Trust me, Elena, everything will be fine. But everything was far from fine. Dante had prepared meticulously. He had positioned snipers in the 2 buildings across the street and placed 5 elite guards disguised as pedestrians around the perimeter of Menender. He believed he controlled every artery leading to the shop. But Lorenzo Luciano did not attack from the outside. He made a move that Dante, a man who relied on muscle and firepower, never saw coming. At exactly 10:15 a.m., while I was instructing my staff on how to treat an antique painting, I heard a strange thud beneath the floorboards. Menender had been renovated from an old French Quarter wine cellar, part of a network of interconnected tunnels forgotten since the last century. Luciano had hired professional excavators. They didn't use heavy gunfire to announce their arrival. Instead, they pumped anesthetic gas through the cracks in the wooden floor. Dante, I feel dizzy. I staggered, the pliers slipping from my hand. Dante instantly recognized the abnormality. He pulled out a wet handkerchief to cover my nose, but at that moment, the floorboards behind the cash register exploded upward. 3 assassins clad in black, wearing gas masks, lunged out like ghosts from the underworld. They moved through Menender with a terrifying fluidity, as if they had memorized every tunnel and every crack in the floor. They didn't fire wildly. They aimed directly at the tempered glass display cases, sending shards flying like a rain of knives, forcing Dante's guards to retreat to shield the staff. Marcus, block the tunnel, Dante roared. He drew his gold beretta and dropped the first man as soon as his head surfaced. But Luciano's gambit was more sophisticated than that. He had rigged a tripwire into the very antique wind chimes at the door that I loved so much. As Marcus rushed in to provide cover, he accidentally snagged the wire, which was as thin as spider silk. Crash. A high-pressure canister hidden in the ceiling burst open, I spraying a fine white powder. Magnesium powder designed to blind the eyes and paralyze the sense of smell. In that chaotic, blinding fog, an assassin managed to slip behind me. He didn't use a gun for fear of alerting the snipers outside. He wielded a compact hand crossbow, the weapon of a silent killer. Elena, get down! Dante saw the bolt leveled at my throat. In that life-or-death heartbeat, He couldn't fire because his vision was clouded by the white powder. Driven by the pure instinct of a man protecting the woman he loved, he hurled himself forward, wrapping his body around mine and twisting. Thwack! The sound of the bolt hitting flesh was sickeningly cold. Dante stiffened, a muffled groan of agony escaping through his clenched teeth. The bolt, tipped with a paralytic, buried itself deep into his left shoulder. A blood began to seep through his pristine white shirt. "Dante!" I screamed, catching his large frame as he began to slump. Amidst the magnesium smoke and Luciano's men surging from the tunnel, Dante, despite the searing pain in his shoulder, used his free right hand to grope beneath the workbench. He wasn't reaching for a gun. He was searching for an antique brass toggle he had secretly installed days prior. Click. Instantly, the sharp sound of metal interlocking echoed beneath the floor. Before I could comprehend what was happening, the wooden display cabinets, the very ones I thought were mere decorations, deployed thin, folding steel plates from their bases. Without fanfare, these hidden steel shutters locked into place, forming a curved wall just wide enough to shield Dante and me from a direct assault. It was the sound of a life-saving gate slamming shut. "Marcus! Activate Nocturne!" Dante shouted. That was when Dante's ingenuity truly shone. In the dark corners of the shop, antique radios, that I had assumed were props, emitted a small, glowing light. There was no horrific siren. Instead, a focused, directional frequency, a sound that defied a name, hammered into the ears like physical pressure, making my stomach churn. It wasn't meant to kill. It was meant to shatter the sense of balance. Luciano's men had gas masks, but they weren't prepared for a silent sonic assault. I saw them freeze, some clutching their ears, others staggering as if they had been yanked off their vertical axis. Dante looked at me, blood soaking his shirt, but his eyes burned with a quiet pride. He had used the language of an antique shop, precision, and interlocking joints, and hidden mechanisms, to defeat Luciano's cunning. When the dust settled, Menender was no longer just a place of ticking clocks. The scent of old wood was choked by metal and the lingering white powder. 3 of Luciano's men would never leave that tunnel. One was dead on the floor. The other 2 died in the struggle to retreat. Those were 3 lives, a cost the underworld calculates coldly. But I saw the truth in Marcus's eyes. For Luciano, this wasn't just a loss of manpower. It was a humiliation. We paid a price as well. 2 guards were injured, one with a deep gash from the flying glass. And Dante had taken the bolt meant for me. As he was helped out of the shop, his shoulder was crimson, but his gaze remained terrifyingly calm, the calm of a man who had just declared to the entire city, "Touch a Carboni, and you sign your own death warrant." Regarding negotiations and market shares, those were gone. Dante had swallowed bitterness before to buy time to protect me, which had only emboldened a man like Luciano. But after this, Dante allowed no room for misinterpretation. No negotiations, no concessions. This wasn't a beautiful win. It was a lid being slammed shut on the idea that the Carbonis could be tested twice. The echoes of the victory rippled through New Orleans. The citizens didn't know about the tunnels or the sonic traps. They only knew that Menender still stood. The staff was alive, and there was no explosion, no street-flooding bloodbath. In a city used to carnage, a suppressed attack was its own message. That night, rumors flew through the bars. Carboni wasn't just strong, he controlled the level of cruelty. And the neutral parties grew silent. The smaller families realized, stand near Carboni and be shielded, stand against him and be crushed. Luciano wouldn't vanish, but he would have to retreat and lick his wounds. Lorenzo is spiteful, but he isn't stupid enough to repeat a move while the whole city stares at the blood on Dante's shoulder like a new seal of absolute power. Dante was ushered into the SUV, and I followed him to the private Carboni hospital. Minutes later, the glass doors closed behind us, the sterile, cold scent of antiseptic filling my lungs. Only then did I truly breathe. At least he was safe. The pungent smell of antiseptic couldn't mask the scent of dried blood still clinging to my sleeve. The Carboni family's private hospital was so silent that I could hear the steady rhythm of the heart monitor, each beep a reassurance that Dante was still here, in the flesh. His wound was deep, the bolt having torn through the soft tissue of his shoulder. But strangely, the doctors said he was recovering much faster than anticipated. Perhaps the Carboni blood itself carried a fierce vitality, or perhaps he simply refused to let my son and me worry for a second longer. When Dante finally woke, his eyes found mine first. I gripped his rough hand, my voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for staying alive. Thank you for shielding me." "It's I who should be thanking you, Elena," he murmured. "Without your sharp eyes finding that poisoned needle, or your composure in decoding Luciano's trap, my preparations would have been useless. I built that cage to protect you, but it was you who held the key to our survival. We survived this deadly gambit together." I looked deep into his eyes, taking a breath to summon the courage to say what had been haunting me all night. "Dante, I know the truth. About your power. About the gray mist that foretells death. And the price you pay. Why did you hide it from me? How long did you intend to carry this curse alone?" Dante went still. The room fell into a long silence, broken only by the sterile hum of the machines. He stared at the ceiling, his gaze distant as if sifting through a pile of fragmented memories. "I wasn't confident, Elena," he admitted, his voice dropping an octave. "How do I tell the woman I love that I'm a man without a past? At first, I was afraid. I feared that every time I used my power to protect you, I'd lose the memory of our kiss, the taste of the tea you brew. I was willing to protect you and forget everything, rather than let you know I was soul damaged." He squeezed my hand, a new spark of hope igniting in his eyes. "But when I realized my power didn't work on you, when I saw no mist around you, I was torn apart inside. Half of me feared I'd lost my instinct to protect, but the other half felt stronger than ever because every memory of you remained whole. I stayed silent because I didn't want to burden you with these twisted things. Your presence gives me a reason to be a real human being, rather than just a tool for the family." That was enough for me. "But after this injury, will that power disappear?" I asked anxiously. "Maybe. We won't know until I've fully recovered." Dante looked at me with resolve. "The power was born with me, but there are always variables that even I can't control. And you are the greatest variable of my life, Elena. So, when I'm discharged, I want you and Martin to move into the manor permanently. Don't go back to Menender. Start a new life with me. I need you, not as a watchmaker, but as a part of my soul." I looked at his pale face, seeing the burning urgency in his eyes. My heart swelled with a mixture of ache and joy. I brushed a stray lock of hair from his forehead and smiled softly. "Get well first, Dante. As for us and that tempting offer, we have all the time in the world. Martin and I aren't going anywhere, at least not until you can personally brew me a cup of tea to apologize for keeping secrets for so long." Dante let out a rare, genuine laugh that brightened his weary face. He squeezed my hand, our fingers intertwining like a silent vow that from now on, no secrets would stand between us. In that moment, the suffocating hospital room felt miraculously warm. A soft knock at the door broke the moment. Sophia walked in, accompanied by an elegant woman with silver hair swept into a high bun. She radiated a commanding yet gentle dignity. It was Dante's mother, Lady Isabella Carboni. "Dante, my son!" She rushed to the bedside, her eyes full of sorrow as she checked his bandages. Once satisfied that he was stable, she turned her gaze toward me. A strange, long silence followed. She studied me for a long time, on her eyes narrowing as if trying to recall something from the deep past. "Hello, Elena. Sophia told me of your bravery at Menender. But it's strange. You look so familiar. I feel as though I've met you somewhere before. Or perhaps someone who looked just like you." I offered a polite smile and a slight bow. "It's likely just a common look for people from this region, ma'am. It is an honor to meet you, my lady." "Don't call me my lady. Just call me Isabella, as Dante does, she said, taking my hand. Her warmth was infectious. Thank you for being by his side. The Carboni family owes you a great debt. Sophia stood nearby, giving me a knowing, subtle wink. My mother talked about you the entire way here. I smiled back at Sophia's compliment and excused myself to give the three of them some private family time. In stepping out into the hallway, I found Marcus leaning against the wall, his eyes still vigilantly scanning the surroundings. Marcus, I called softly. Can you spare a moment? I want to understand more about the history of this family's power and about what Dante went through before he met me. Marcus looked at me, a deep respect visible in the eyes of the loyal guard. He nodded slowly. You have a right to know, Elena, because you are the only one who has made him want to keep his memories rather than throw them away. The wind from the Mississippi swept through the hospital corridor, carrying the scent of salt and the heavy melancholy of old souls. Marcus stood there, his shadow stretching long against the marble wall, his face etched with the scars of time. The Carboni family didn't just happen to reach this peak. Elena, Marcus began, his voice dropping low like a bell echoing from the past. This status was built on blood and a brutal price that outsiders can never truly comprehend. Dante's grandfather's era was the most glorious yet the darkest. He used the gray mist power excessively, almost without rival. As a result, the Carboni triumphs, resources, and influence skyrocketed in less than a decade. Marcus narrowed his eyes slightly, as if recounting the staggering numbers from the family ledgers. He seized over 15,000 hectares of fertile farmland along the bayou, controlling the entire food supply of the South. In the family's secret armory back then, the stash of weapons and ammunition was enough to equip 2 elite infantry divisions. Dante's grandfather was effectively an uncrowned king. From sheriffs to state senators, and no one dared pass a decree without a nod from the Carbonis. The people both feared and worshipped him as a guardian, because with one word from him, order would be established instantly. But the price was merciless. In his final years, he struggled in a maze of empty emotions. He couldn't even remember the faces of those who had sworn their lives to him, not even his own wife and children. He passed away in utter loneliness, surrounded by a mountain of gold but with a mind completely blank, not a single fragment of memory to carry with him into the afterlife. By Dante's father's time, he was much more restrained. He understood that an empire built entirely on fear and cheating destiny would eventually collapse from within. He worked harder to maintain the crown, on choosing to harmonize interests among families rather than annihilate them. Marcus paused, his gaze seemingly moving back in time to a shocking event 15 years ago. I still remember the incident at Pier 9. A coalition of 3 small families from the north tried to seize the Carbonis main rice transport route. Had it been his grandfather's time, in a single night, the gray mist would have guided the gunmen to erase every last drop of blood from those 3 families. But Dante's father chose a different path. He accepted surrendering the rights to the East Warehouse District, a fertile land bringing in massive profits annually, in exchange for a long-term peace treaty. Many in the family thought he was weak, but in reality, that leniency helped the Carbonis keep their elite forces intact and avoid a war of attrition that could have lasted decades. He preferred losing a territory to gaining the respect of his rivals and the absolute loyalty of his subordinates because they didn't have to die in vain. He was satisfied with his choice, even though death later remained a haunting reminder of the price he paid to keep the throne cleaner. Dante inherited his father's spirit more than anyone. Marcus's shoulders shook slightly, his voice cracking as he mentioned Dante. Dante has saved my life many times, and each time, I've had to watch him face that emptiness. He forgets how we survived together. Sophia and I have to record everything, from his eating habits to his closest associates, and find ways to repeat them daily so he doesn't get lost. I've seen Dante struggle with those gaps. He threw himself into short-term thrills, but the more he did, the more meaningless it felt. Eventually, Dante feared attachment. It was the only thing he felt he had left from the childhood he thought he'd lost completely. It's because he knows that sooner or later he will forget the person he loves. That feeling of emptiness and its consequences aren't as easy as people think, Elena. My heart tightened as I listened. So, has no generation ever had a variable or a factor that intervened in this power? Marcus? Marcus was silent for a long time, then nodded slowly. There was one. His grandfather's era saw an exception, an Eastern healer, the only one who could perform acupuncture on secret pressure points on his head. Once, when his grandfather was severely poisoned, this healer used 108 silver needles to block the blood flow. During the 49 days of treatment, the gray mist disappeared entirely. In exchange, his grandfather could clearly feel every breath, every memory. He felt truly alive before the curse returned. Then there was Dante's father. Marcus continued. He met a herbalist. She used roots from the marsh to brew a secret tea. She had a technique. Whenever Dante's father drank that tea, his power would be completely neutralized against her. She stood outside the curse, living beside him as a free entity whom he could neither predict nor forget. Exactly one day before she died, Mr. Carboni went to see her for medicine. He looked directly at her, searching for a sign, even the thinnest gray mist to prepare for the parting. But he saw absolutely nothing. She was still smiling, and still calm as if death had never even brushed her sleeve. Because he saw no gray mist, he believed she was fine. But the next morning, she passed away in her sleep. The curse was completely blind to her until her final breath. I instinctively touched the jasmine necklace my mother had left me, falling silent for a moment. I was brought back by Marcus's next words. However, Elena, variables are unpredictable. Neutralizing the power against someone might bring peace, but it also carries the risk of the unforeseen. No one dares to abuse it, because if a leader cannot see danger, the entire family becomes blind before the enemy's gun. So, is there a way to restore the power if it's lost, Marcus? I asked, my voice trembling but firm. Marcus looked me straight in the eyes, his face terrifyingly solemn. I only know that there is. But it is a blood ritual, a re-establishment of the contract with the darkness. And the price this time won't just be memories. It might be an exchange of the soul. I know Dante is considering it right now, feeling himself weakening from the wound, his power fading. I took a deep breath, trying to suppress the shock surging in my chest. Marcus's words weren't just the history of a family. They were a map leading to the hidden corners of my mother's life, the things she was never brave enough to say while she was alive. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you for trusting me and telling me all of this. I nodded slightly, my eyes flashing with a strange determination. I need to clear something up. Something that perhaps only I can find the answer to. Marcus looked at me, started to say something, but stopped. He simply bowed his head, letting me turn away and rush down the hospital corridor. I left the hospital without waiting for any guards. In a reckless moment where logic couldn't keep up, I drove the SUV myself, hurtling into the New Orleans night. The engine roared like the heartbeat thumping in my chest. My blood burned hot, an indescribable thrill as if I were racing toward the final piece of my life's puzzle. Memories of my childhood with my mother suddenly flooded back, vivid in every breath. Our family lived simply then, but was overflowing with happiness. My father was a skilled mechanical engineer, always obsessed with gears and crankshafts. And mother? She was a gentle woman who spent her life tending to the small herb corner at the back of the house. Her workspace was tiny but incredibly clean, on always smelling of roots and the pure scent of dried flowers on wicker trays. Mother always said, "A woman is the one who nurtures the spirit and energy for the whole family." She was meticulous with every ingredient, cherishing every petal as if it were a life. At night, when Dad and I were asleep, she would quietly return to that corner, working under the oil lamp. People in the area spoke of her tea as a miracle cure. They rumored she was a herbal witch. When I asked curiously, she just smiled kindly. "They exaggerate, child. The world always needs healing, and I'm just doing my part." She promised to teach me to brew tea. Now I understood. My ability to repair antique heirlooms was the perfect fusion of my father's mechanical precision and my mother's empathetic energy. When I was 22, on a freezing winter night when my father was gravely ill, I accidentally saw Mother brewing tea for him. In the dim light, she used a small needle to prick her finger, letting a single drop of blood fall into the steaming cup. When she saw me, she was startled, her face momentarily shy. This is a special tea to help the sick recover their energy the fastest. I didn't fully believe her then, but miraculously, my father recovered immediately after. The day she passed, she left me the jasmine necklace and a secret letter. Her final whisper still echoed in my ears. When you meet the one who makes your heart truly vibrate, the one who stirs the healing energy in you most strongly, that is when you should open it. For years, I saw it only as a gentle blessing. But standing in the Carboni vortex, looking into Dante's scarred eyes, and I understood that the fated bond my mother spoke of was him. He wasn't just the man I loved. He was the only person on Earth who could awaken the latent power in my blood. The car screeched to a halt in front of Menender. The place had been about 60% restored after the battle, thanks to the speed of the Carboni crew. I rushed inside, dodging the remaining wooden debris, enlisting a guard to help me find the secret compartment. Fortunately, the old leather notebook wasn't destroyed. The letter still lay quietly in its yellowed envelope. I took it to the car, took a deep breath to steady my heart, and opened it. My dear daughter, I am so happy that you are a daughter who is in love and understands. When you opened this letter, you must have truly felt your soul grow light and strong, and you must have met the time stand still moment of your life. I didn't want to carry the title of a witch because I wanted you to have the most normal childhood. But I understand it is time for you to know that in your blood lies a special healing energy. It does not happen naturally. It requires tempering through crisis and growth. When the necessary condition is that your inner self is strong enough, and the sufficient condition is when you meet the one whose curse stops before you, your tea will become a miracle. If you add a drop of your blood, as I did for your father, it can restore every bit of lost energy for the one who drinks it. I am not 100% sure about everything, for life always has variables for both the ordinary and the extraordinary. If you have read this far, understand and perceive it with your heart. The things that come from the heart will lead you to beautiful bonds. Love, Mom. I lowered the letter, tears streaming down my face. All the tea I had brewed for Dante until now. It turns out, in my hot, flowing blood, his memories blend and flow regardless of any power. It turns out I am the variable that renders Dante's power useless. I can't believe this destiny. I want to hold Dante and tell him everything.
A week had passed since the day I was wounded at Menender. The scars on my arm had begun to knit together, but it was the stillness in my mind that occupied my thoughts most. There were no more gray mists, no more omens. The world now appeared before my eyes with stark realism, yet it also carried a latent uncertainty, a future I could no longer foresee. I sat alone in my study, the shadows draping over the ancient bookshelves. The words my mother and Sophia spoke at the hospital still echoed in my ears, cold and heavy with significance. Dante, there is an ancient family medicine that can restore your eye. But you must know, if you choose to return to the darkness, the price will be eternal oblivion. You will not only forget the battles, you will lose every emotion tied to the ones you chose to save from death. And that may include Elena. No one can guarantee that once restored, your power will remain neutralized against her as it was before. Think very carefully, my son. I held my father's pocket watch in my hand, my thumb tracing the worn silver casing. I stared into the void, whispering as if he were standing right in front of me. Father, I refuse to restore this power. I will not abuse it. Just as you warned, I have felt the true meaning of life more deeply now that I am whole with my memories. That in itself is a greater strength, one that tells me exactly what I must do to be better, to protect the one I love. even if I must pay for it with my own flesh and blood. I trust in myself and the brothers who have stood by me, even when I am at my most imperfect. I am ready for the road ahead. Father. A sense of relief washed through my chest. I was no longer a slave to the curse. I chose to be a man.
Knock, knock. I stepped into the room, a steaming tea tray in my hands. Dante quickly closed his leather journal, the one where he had been recording his fated gratitude, as I entered. "How is your arm? Is it still painful?" I asked, setting the teacup on the desk. He stared intensely into the ethereal, pale pink liquid. "Elena, I've drunk your tea many times, but only now have I truly noticed. If it's made from jasmine and lavender, why is it pink instead of amber?" I fell silent for a moment. "Dante, you've realized something, haven't you? My mother said you look just like an old friend of hers, a tea master named Alia. That was your mother, wasn't it?" I gasped slightly, then let out a breath of relief. The world is truly a small place, Dante. Alia was indeed my mother. She taught me to brew tea when I was 15. It was the soul of our family. She used it to care for people meticulously. It wasn't just a drink. It was her heart, her way of soothing the exhaustion of a long day. I suppose I absorbed that love without even realizing it. And by chance, we met during this brief New Orleans winter, so I brewed this specifically for you, a tea carrying my deepest healing energy and affection. Dante pulled me closer, asking in a low whisper, "Did you cast a spell on this cup? Because when I'm with you, I feel whole." I looked deep into his eyes, ready to explain the strange energy flowing through my veins. I smiled, my eyes shimmering under the golden light of the study. "I did. I always told Martin you were a special guest. From the first moment you walked into the shop with that old watch, I knew nothing of your power or your family, Dante. But there was something about you, an energy so cold and hollow it felt like you were carrying a burden that no one in this world could understand. That emptiness created an invisible, fierce urge within me. It made it impossible for me to look away. It drove me to choose this specific tea, and to be bold enough to use a drop of my own blood, hoping to soothe the chill inside you, just as my mother did for my father when he was gravely ill. I helped you simply because my heart told me you needed to be healed, not because I knew the secrets behind your eyes. And I myself only recently learned the truth of the witch's blood flowing through me. Everything is a coincidence beyond imagination, Dante." Dante looked at me with profound admiration. "Elena, is there anything else you're hiding? You truly are the witch I want to keep by my side forever. This energy is so sweet and warm." "I should be the one asking you that, Dante. But aren't you surprised?" He gave a calm, slight smile. "I had begun to suspect something extraordinary was in your tea, Elena. But who you are, or what my power is, doesn't matter as much as the feeling of a life lived fully alongside you. I am willing to be wounded for you, and I am ready to give up that power because of those wounds. I want our present and our future to create new miracles together." I smiled through tear-filled eyes. Dante, for a MAFIA Don to give up his I, the supreme power that has held the Carboni throne for 3 generations, is a staggering risk to the family's standing. It's a dangerous gamble. But if that power only brings a dark side, while eroding your mind and turning you into a machine without memories, then I completely respect your choice. I believe in your strength, and I believe in the destiny that brought us together to break this curse. If the darkness no longer leads the way, then I and this pink tea will be your light. "Then come home with me officially," he said. "I want to announce you to everyone. We are one. We will be stronger together, and we won't let anyone lurk in our shadows again." "I accept, Dante. I think Martin will be very happy." He pulled me into his arms, and I embraced the miraculous softness and warmth that fate had gifted me. A sense of relief, light as a cloud, spread through every cell. A heart I once thought had turned to stone was beating again. The next morning, I stood for a long time in front of Menender, gazing at the spiritual child I had nurtured for 10 years. After the dramatic battle, the shop was about 80% restored. The bullet-scarred walls had been meticulously patched, and the new ebony paint smelled of fresh varnish. The tempered glass displays a gleam, reflecting the brilliant New Orleans sunshine. Though tiny cracks remained in the floorboards as indelible witnesses to what happened, the shop overall felt sturdier and warmer than ever. New jasmine vines had been planted to climb around the iron doorframe, releasing a cool, sweet fragrance. People often call this place Menender. Few ever ask about the meaning of the name, and likely no one would guess that instead of some dry technical term, it is the soft fusion of the two flowers in that special tea, jasmine and lavender. In this shop, from the microscopic gears to the warmth of the tea on the table, even the smallest detail carries a great vibration. It weaves into the heart of every guest who visits, soothing the scratches that time has carelessly left behind. Now, Menender is no longer just a place to repair heirlooms. It is where Dante and I began to rewrite our own destiny. Many people come to Menender asking for the secret to forgetting pain. They want me to fix their hearts the way I fix a watch, by throwing away the broken components. But the truth is, there is no such thing as a broken memory. A heart full of scars is better than a hollow one, because those scars prove that you fought, that you survived, and that you loved. Do not pray for oblivion. Pray for the courage to embrace all the shattered pieces of yourself and use them to build a version of yourself that is even more resilient. The antique wine chimes rang out clearly. I took a deep breath, feeling life overflowing within me. The road ahead may still hold storms, but I know I will never have to walk it alone again.